Our next speaker is Aleksander Larsen from 엑시인피니티. So 엑시인피니티 is a blockchain-based digital pet game founded with the mission of introducing fun gameplay and a dynamic player-run economy to the world of non-fungible tokens. Aleksander is an experienced video game broadcaster and ex-competitive gamer. Aleksander is in charge of the business and operational side of 엑시인피니티. His background in esports and running gaming tournaments gives us insights into the world of competitive gaming and the innovative monetization strategies that can be unlocked as the blockchain gaming space matures. Please welcome Aleksander.
Hi. Hello. Thank you, Ethan. And first of all, thank you, Hashed, for having 엑시인피니티 here. As he said, my name is Aleksander. And before we get started, I want to just briefly say how we met in Axie, because it's quite relevant to the entire space. So 엑시인피니티 is actually a team that met playing CryptoKitties. So if you can imagine that I am Norwegian, I met the CEO of 엑시인피니티, who is sitting right there, his name is Trung, playing CryptoKitties and also our growth lead. And we were so fascinated with the possibilities of non-fungible tokens and what these tokens could bring and change possibly the future of gaming that I decided to quit my job and travel to Vietnam to be with the 엑시인피니티 team. In this presentation, I'm going to talk about the importance of NFT design and how it has impacted our economy in 엑시인피니티. So there's going to be quite a lot of focus on the economy side. If you have never heard about Axie, I'm going to show a brief trailer, and then we can get started.
엑시인피니티 is a digital pet community where players can sell their in-game characters for real money using the Ethereum blockchain. Players can breed their Axies to discover exciting new combinations. Axies start off as eggs and require love and attention from their owners to grow up. Take care of your Axies and earn experience points by completing daily activities. Use experience points to level up your Axies and unlock new abilities which can be used in battle. You can even trade your Axies for cryptocurrency on our marketplace. Find out more on AXIinfinity.com. Available now.
So yeah, that trailer was actually released about in the middle of 2018 or later part of 2018. But what we started to realize when we were developing 엑시인피니티 is that a lot of the players actually wanted to use our non-fungible tokens for more than just the games that we were creating. They actually wanted to create their own games. They wanted to create their own virtual world, and that's kind of what we realized that we had to do. So instead of just making one game, we are now developing a virtual world, which is called Lunasia, but I'm going to talk more about that a little bit later. On the screen here, you can see some numbers, and these are quite significant numbers, because what they signify is the average amount of money spent. I'm sure some people have other numbers, but these are the numbers that I have. And what you can see is that 22, 100 to 400, and 400 to $800. $22 is the gaming industry average. 100 to 400 is the average amount of money a player spends in a blockchain game, given that it has some amount of success. In 엑시인피니티, we see that players spend on average between $400 and $800. And why is it that way? We believe that it has everything to do with the way that we have designed our ecosystem from the beginning, with a focus on NFT design. So this is our framework. It's quite a simple one. We have called it the triple threat framework. It basically states that to create value for our players and in our universe, whenever we issue an NFT, it needs to be at least limited to some degree. You cannot, as Yatsu mentioned in his presentation, if you have an unlimited amount of assets, they're probably going to be quite worthless in the end. If they also look unique, they are more attractive to players, they will be worth more. And the same goes also for utility and in-game power. This is, of course, a very sensitive subject in gaming, because if you make it too strong, then the fun amount for players will be kind of negated, because they can just pay to win to an extent. And in the middle there, for some of you guys might recognize the card. It's called the Black Lotus from Magic the Gathering, one of my favorite games. I played it for actually over 17 years now, and it's one of the most powerful cards in the game. It fulfills all of the three principles that we have. So basically, this card is one of the strongest in the game. It's only 1,100 copies of it created ever. It's an alpha Black Lotus, and the price of the most expensive one was $168,000, not sold so long ago. So what we can say is that players, they actually build emotional connection to all these game characters, whether it be physical objects, like this one, the Black Lotus, and also some of the game characters in Axie Infinity. So when we were designing our Axies, as you could hear in the trailer, every Axie is a unique digital pet, an ERC 721 type of token, which can be used in multiple games in our universe. All the data is stored on the Ethereum blockchain at the moment in a 256-bit number. And whatever kind of number that they have, it determines the visual look of the Axie and how strong they are in battle and how strong they are in other kind of games. So other people are, for example, making different games in the universe where some genetic data basically signifies that they are stronger in that specific game. And some Axies, of course, have exceedingly rare mystic body parts, which I'm going to also go into detail a little bit later. And these could only be purchased for a limited amount of time, basically making them very, very scarce. So far, we have about 64,000 Axies in existence, and the price varies from about $2 for the cheapest, and the most expensive one was sold for over $15,000. So this is a little bit about the AXI Infinity presale, which we had in 2018. So for those of you who are game developers might wonder, well, why did people buy our Axies? We actually had about 250 players, or investors, I should say, participate in this early presale. 3,112 Axies sold, and we raised over 900 Ether. At the time, it was between $500,000 and $600,000. So why did people buy? Well, the Axies that you could get, they fulfilled the three principles. They were scarce. They have the special origin tag that could only be purchased for a limited time. They could also unlock special, unique skins, and some of the Axies themselves have mystic body parts and can be upgraded to legendary ability. And as I mentioned, this is quite critical when it comes to gameplay-related parts, because the legendary abilities in the game are exceedingly strong, so we need to balance that out a little bit later. And of course, we had a quite recent referral strategy. Whenever you refer someone to the game and they purchase an Axie, you get one specific token, and then you can redeem these tokens for one Axie. And what is interesting is these tokens that people could get, they are ERC20 type of tokens, and they have actually appreciated significant in value. So in a way, for those of you guys who are familiar with Magic the Gathering or card packs, if you have 5 of these very early tokens, you can redeem them for one specific rare Axie. And this is something that I'm also going to be hammering on in this entire presentation. Good NFT design means that the value is created for the players, not only for the game developer. So by actually capping our supply, by actually saying that we have a limited amount of creating Axies and also selling Axies, we can see that people are more willing to spend money. And for those of you who can't really see, up there on the right, you can see different kind of Axies that were sold and flipped. So basically, the value has increased as time has passed because more and more players are coming into the ecosystem and speculating more because they see that the value of these assets are becoming, they're becoming more valuable, quite simply. That is because they are limited edition. And as you can see, there are only 4,077 Axies with the special origin tag. And only 1,345 of them will have one or more mystic ability. The most expensive Axie that was sold, it has, I believe, 3 mystic parts. So why do they also keep buying? It's because, of course, it's a social ecosystem that we are creating. A community where people actually love to show off their rare assets. It's social proof in a sense. If you have a really cool rare asset, not only can you use this in Axie Infinity, but having this thing in your wallet also proves that you were one of the earliest adopters of blockchain games in general. And this is something that also Yats mentioned in his presentation. Things, they cannot be removed. If you have something that it says that this is a creation date, that's it. That's the way it is. You can always prove it. And that's kind of the beginning of your virtual identity on the blockchain. So what was the next step? I said it earlier, we needed a place for Axies to live. And this is Lunasia, a virtual world which is of 2 parts. One is a gameplay part where players, they can harvest different kind of tokenized resources, use your Axies on top of your land, and then you can attack other players, attack other resource nodes. And then we have also a virtual world part which is being created right now. So players, if you own a plot of land, you can monetize that with different kind of experiences and also host future games on it as time passes. This is, of course, also limited edition. So by saying that the land itself has only 90,601 available plots, we're able to drive demand. But we can also say that whenever we're selling land, we need to limit ourselves because 90,000 plots of land is quite a lot when the ecosystem is so young. So maybe we shouldn't sell 90,000 plots at the beginning, but we need to think a little bit ahead. So that's what we did. We had a land sale in early 2019, where players could purchase different kind of chests. So it's a gacha kind of mechanic, where how many chests you open determines, of course, how many different kind of items you're getting. But we had a few other key mechanics that we had in this sale. So every chest you have contains 1 land plot. So as you can see there on the top, we have what's called a savanna chest. In every savanna chest, there is 1 plot of savanna land and a few other items. If you collect every single item, it unlocks a specific exclusive kind of land, which could only be, which is a limited edition as well. And the same goes downwards when you look at the different kind of lands for sale. Players, of course, have another special kind of jackpot mechanism, which is called, which we created so that even the players who spent the least amount of money could also have a chance to find something that's really valuable. So you could open a chest and then you can find a Genesis land even by purchasing the cheapest chest. And the most expensive Genesis land for now has sold for over $5,000. And one thing that we designed as well, we needed something to drive the interest. So why would you purchase land? What is actually driving the interest of purchasing land? So when you look at the map, it's actually 25% of the map. It's a little bit dark, I can see now. But we only sold 25% of the map at the beginning. 95% of all the land has been sold out. And we have 75% in reserves. And we have so far sold for over 4,000 Ether. So the way that it works is that if you own a plot of land next to a resource node, and the player actually attacks the resource node next to you, you are then entitled to a small amount of resources which that Axie earned. And that's something that we see a lot of players are very interested in and also purchasing a lot of land, because not everyone is interested in actually playing the game because we're so early on in the ecosystem that we have a lot of different kind of investors. And most players are actually, crypto players by now, would maybe even define themselves as investors. So when we look at the marketplace, this is our own created marketplace. We believe in owning the user experience from the beginning to the end. And by owning the user experience, we can also have really great data, and we can also be sure that we don't churn anyone because they do things in a way that we don't like. So far, we've had over $700,000 in volume. On average, every player trades items for about $400 yearly, and we've had over $17,000 in sales. And as you can see, the curve is, well, it's starting to look pretty good. And a big reason for that is because the players, they actually care about their game assets. You don't get this kind of thing if you don't really careful about when you issue new kind of assets. So as I mentioned, the most expensive Axie sold for 15,000, and we take 4.25% commission fee on every trade, which is a part of our business model. So some of our recent growth metrics. We have over 2,000 players now who own and hold Axies. And so far, there has been over 2,722 holders. We calculate retention a little bit differently than most games do. And the way that we calculate retention is by saying that everyone who still holds an Axie, but they can sell at any time they want, they are actually a user. We don't necessarily believe in a user who is sending a transaction to the Ethereum blockchain on a daily basis, just because it's too easy to game that kind of statistics. We care more about the money and the value that is being locked into the ecosystem. So we usually have between 659 visitors, 699 visitors on a daily basis to the website, and between 180, 350 send daily transactions to the Ethereum blockchain. But what's most interesting is how much time do they actually spend in a game like this. So 14 minutes, well, it is significant when you look at the current state of the game. Because players right now, well, they can battle, they can breed, but in reality, we're still very early on in development. So here we have what is the secret behind Axie Infinity and what we have been cultivating since the beginning. Something that you cannot fake your way to. Something that you need to build by blood, sweat, and tears. You need to be there every day. We have a Discord channel. We do it on Twitter. We cultivate our community. We're honest with the players. We say to them every day, this is what we have. This is what we can offer you guys. And we see that the response has been tremendous. We have a tiered reward system for active players and active creators. So anyone who actually wants to create content in Axie Infinity, they can do that, and then they will get rewarded. And what we see is that a lot of players are creating amazing content, like I'm going to show you just now. So, in general, what we can say is that these kind of things, they don't come out of their own. You need to have an active community. You need to have people who actually care about what you're doing, and then they will start creating things, then they will start to actually stream, for example. So streaming as a distribution channel is something that we're very focused on, because what the streamers do, for example, they spread joy about Axie, and they also give them away. Of course, people love free stuff, and that's actually something that our own community is providing. So actually, we have one player who has donated over $20,000 to different kind of streamers only when they are playing Axie Infinity, for example. Why? Well, because the incentive models between the players and the developers are aligned. So this is a new way of actually creating games. So what we see from the regular gaming industry is that their goals as game developers in general are to milk the players for as much money as they possibly can. In blockchain games, it's a different kind of model. If we keep milking the players, if we say that, yes, today you're going to get this special offer, oh, and tomorrow you're going to get this special offer, and the day after that is another special offer, nobody actually cares what you're making anymore. You need to be consistent and say that, yes, we're going to give you this, and that's kind of it. And then you guys can trade among each other. So what we've seen is that more so than just making content and streamers, as I mentioned, they have a third-party developer community. And this third-party developer community, they are actually using these Axie Infinity NFT assets to create different kind of games even. So this on the bottom right here is called AXI Sushi. It is a racing game where players who use your Web3 wallet, if you have an Axie in your wallet, you can participate in the sushi racing game. You participate against other players, and then you can win small prizes, which is airdropped by other community members. They're also making different kind of wikis. Like you can see on top there, it's called axiworld.com. So feel free to visit that site whenever you want. They have all the updated guides, all the updated tools that are available in Axie Infinity. And this is also something that's community created. And as I said, they are stakeholders. They actually believe in what we're making, and they also gain actually by spreading the word of Axie. Because if they can get more players into the game, their assets also become worth more. So what is next? As I said, we have been building this since early on in 2018. At the time, there was only Ethereum. At the time, anything that you wanted to do, you had to do on a web-based application. Now, we are making a mobile application, and players will be able to log in using their email. They will be able to play without paying gas. We're already taking the first steps there, working tightly with Loom Network as a sidechain to Ethereum. And this is how the internal alpha is looking. And that's just the beginning. As we are keeping on developing this application, we're also building out the world of Axie. And what we see is that play to earn is a big drawing factor for many, many players. But we could not do this in a meaningful way before. The reason for that is people are botting, of course. People are trying to make money in a very easy way. Unless we can have some time constraints for players where they actually have to spend time in the game, we cannot allow them to make too much, I should say, resources in our game. And as was mentioned in the presentation, I come from an esports background. I don't necessarily believe that we can make the game into an esports immediately, but what we can do is facilitate for competition. And what we can do is seed the esports environment and let players actually compete. And we're now also seeing that our own players are creating different kind of tournaments in Axie. And this one is probably the most important thing. The Lunasia SDK is what we're making to facilitate more in the realm of a virtual world where we need to harness the power of user-generated content. So we're creating a very easy-to-use framework so that we can act as a distribution model for other kind of game developers and also amateur gamers who want to participate in the Axie Infinity ecosystem. But what we see is that we have all these players and we have all these assets who are worth so much money. We need to allow other players to create content so that we can capture value from that as well, and that they can also partake in the value that is being created in the Axie Infinity ecosystem. So if we allow players to issue tokens, both fungible and non-fungible, in the Axie Infinity universe, you can kind of see where this leads. Revenue sharing contracts using smart contracts is also a natural next step. And of course, modifying the existing Axie assets with different kind of hats, similar to what you see in a Steam marketplace, for example. And the last one, advanced programming tools. What we believe in Axie is that players need to be able to create games, whether they are professional game developers or simple like normal people like me, but they just want to kind of partake in the universe. But of course, advanced programming tools need to come as well. So yeah, thank you. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask as well.